I would say determination is in line with dedication. I think you have to be
dedication.
dedicated.
Yes, sorry.
You have to be determination and dedication are kind of similar, but
very similar. Yeah.
You gotta be dedicated. You've got to wake up each and every day. It doesn't matter how I feel today. That's not what matters. What matters is that I show up and I do the thing that I say I'm going to do. And if I don't, I know how I'm going to feel.
Oh.
And right?
So, I mean, whatever it takes mentality. It doesn't matter what you feel in the moment. It's like, hey, if we're going to do this, it's like, whatever it takes, that's what I'm willing to do.
So you have a passion for fitness and the desire to start your own business. But launching a massively successful fitness business is extremely complex. The systems, operations, hiring, firing, coaching, sales, and marketing are critical to success. Where do you even start? This show will give you the answers. Here is Bedros Koulian and Bryce Henson, your hosts of the Fitness Franchise Podcast, a show dedicated to helping fitness entrepreneurs launch and grow successful gyms.
Welcome back, friends, to another incredible episode of the Fitness Franchise Podcast. Herve and Nina, my dear friends, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having us, Bryce. We are incredibly excited to be here to share our experience, not only with you, but with this awesome audience.
Copy that. Well, we got a lot of stuff to get through today. Super excited to kind of dive in your fit body success, your journey of the last 5 years. But first and foremost, why don't you tell us the backstory? Herve, start with you.
All right, so a little bit of background on myself. So I have been in the fitness industry for over 20 plus years.
I can tell.
Yeah, you can't.
For all you viewers at home or listening to audio, I just touched Herve's muscles, which are very impressive.
They're pretty tight. I worked out earlier this morning, so I've got that pump going with this incredibly tight shirt. So it looks good. Nonetheless, so I've been in the fitness industry for over 20 years, but I grew up in a small town outside of Chicago, Evanston, Illinois.
Northwestern.
Yeah, Northwestern University. If you're familiar with Northwestern, yes, that is in Evanston. And I was born and raised in Evanston, and my parents are immigrants. So they came to the United States for a better opportunity for their kids. Growing up, I was always into sports. You know, athletics was my thing. I excelled at soccer, so I played soccer for a large majority of my life up until high school.
Okay.
But then when I got to high school, I transitioned. I started playing football, which I excelled in as well. But as you know, sometimes even the best people in our lives, the people that really care for us, the people that love us, don't really think that our decisions are the best. And even though...
Or our dreams.
Or our dreams are the best, right? And even though they love us and care for us, they sometimes hold us back. And what I mean by that
And sometimes I think they probably just don't want you to see you get hurt,
Exactly.
but at the same token, it does hold you back. So continue on.
Yeah, so, you know, people I loved told me that moving from soccer to football would be probably the worst thing that I can do because I wasn't big enough and I couldn't compete with the other people in that level. And so I really didn't want to hear that. That wasn't my vision. My vision for myself was that I would transition and really excel. And so from going from hearing people tell me that I can't do it, people that love me tell me that I can't do it, that really fueled me. That fueled me, and it made me push into a little bit more to prove to those people that I actually can. And I know a lot of people are faced with that outside of not just fitness, but in any other area of their life where they are pursuing a dream, there's a goal in mind that they want to accomplish, and the people that they love are telling them that it's not going to work.
And just like you were saying too, like it's not out of a place of let's crush these people's dreams, but it's from a place of them acting out of their own fear. And they're trying to protect you because they do love you, you know? And so what you've been great at since I've known you and from the stories that you tell, Herve's got a gift for it. It's like being able to just kind of put that aside and stay focused versus myself allowing that to kind of guide me, you know? So being able to...
So for you, you're saying like it's allowed you to guide you more, you know, the outside feedback, where Herve, you've kind of always marched to the beat of your own drum.
Because, you know, the reality is, Bryce, is that a lot of us have limiting beliefs, right? We have these limiting beliefs because of our upbringing, our experiences through life, and they're like seeds that have been planted in our minds that can either grow and produce bad fruit or good.
And it's not just from the people in our lives. It's from all the circumstances, from examples that you see, from movies and
Content
media,
you put in your head.
everything.
Totally.
It comes from everywhere. So the more self-aware you can be, the more you can protect against it. Because I don't think it's that the limiting beliefs are never going to come, but it's being aware that one's visiting right now.
One's
and
visiting.
You gotta like, you know.
I love that. One's visiting.
I like it.
Thanks. You can use it sometime.
I will. Well, kind of walk us through. So, what ended up happening with the football situation? How'd you overcome it? And then eventually want to kind of tail into how you met the beauty in your left.
Yeah, awesome. After the people told me that I couldn't do it, well, it fueled me inside. It gave me an extra, some extra fuel to then really pursue it with all of my heart. And so I got in the gym, started taking creatine, started working out a little bit more. 2-a-days was my thing. Working out in the morning and then in the afternoon, because I knew that if I did this, if I put in the work, then I did have a better chance of starting and playing at that level that I wanted to play. And eventually, yes, I did end up getting a scholarship offer, playing at a Division I level. And guess what? All those people that said that I couldn't do it, they came around and said, hey, look, great job.
Totally. What's the famous saying, and I can't remember, it's probably going to butcher that, but at first they laugh at you, then they doubt you, and then when you win and be successful, then they cheer you on. And, certainly you're coming from a family perspective, so going back to the point, no one is really doubting you, wanting you to lose, but you still had to break through that, and at the end, you end up playing D1 football, which is incredible. So transitioning, how did that, sports background, then obviously like the mental capacity to break through that, like how did that lead you to, I guess, get into the fitness industry?
So, good question. Playing sports, obviously you have to train in the gym, you have to work your body so that you can compete at that level. Mm-hmm. And so I'd been doing that for quite some time, but when I graduated college, I wanted to find a job where I can actually help people with fitness. So I joined Bally's. At the time,
as like a personal trainer,
Bally Total Fitness.
Like way back, if you guys,
way back. Bally Total Fitness was my first job, and it really gave me the experience that I needed to see that this was my passion and this was my calling. Definitely.
So from a personal training perspective, obviously you learned that was a passion. I would imagine you probably had to do sales as well, or did they have a front desk to do that? And the reason I'm asking you this is I'm curious the foundation that really led you to be a successful fit body owner.
So that's another great question. So they did want me to sell. And obviously I had no sales experience. I just jumped into the company. And one of the things they wanted us to do was build our clientele base. So they said, hey, there's people on the floor, and what we want you to do is approach them. Someone on the treadmill, approach them, ask them if they want to set up a free consultation. And that was my job, to set up as many free consultations as I could possibly set up. But once again, I had no experience, so coming into that was a super nerve-wracking deal for me because communicating with someone that didn't know me, that was working out on a treadmill, was a bit uncomfortable. And so I can remember the first time I attempted that, I walked up to a lady. She seemed really like she was struggling on the treadmill. I thought I was being friendly, but she turned to me and gave me the nastiest look and yelled at me and told me to leave her alone. And that was my first experience.
Holy smokes.
So my heart rate was up. I'm like, man, should I just go home? This sucks. Is this going to happen for the rest of the day? But I stayed, and I stayed and I talked to the next person and I got a rejection, and I talked to the next person and it was another rejection. But then finally I got to one person that was just like, you know what? I've been looking for a trainer, and she signed up immediately. It allowed me to see that this is, rejection is going to happen. Mm-hmm. Rejection is inevitable. And if you do not like rejection, I've got news for you. It's part of the gig. It's part of this deal, right? You've got to push into the rejections, because the more you push into those rejections, the better you become.
Totally.
You get better with your pitch. You get closer to a yes.
Yeah, the more clients you get, you got to go through those no's to get the yeses.
What they call it, the law of averages, right?
Yep.
So that was my deal. And I'm thankful for the sales experience that I've had along the way, because I think sales is probably one of the most important pieces to growing your business and having a lot of success.
Totally. I would say it's number one for an entrepreneur. It's like you're always selling something. You're always selling yourself first and foremost, and you need to be the one with the most fire, the most passion, especially as you grow your business. Not only sell your clients, but also sell your team on the vision. So it's foundational to your level of success. Well, okay, so can transition that forward. And Nina, I'm curious on where you kind of joined the story. So can I open up a little bit of background for you, and then see how these paths cross?
Yeah, so I mean, I think it's worth noting because now we have Fit Body Bootcamp. I love Fit Body Bootcamp, and I love our members, I love the business, I love our team, and I love being a part of it. But when I started out, I was at an art school, a fine art school, had pretty much no experience whatsoever with fitness at all. But I just graduated like days before and got signed up to a gym, the gym that Herve worked at the time, LA Fitness.
Look at that.
He signs me up for a fitness assessment like the next day. So I go in and we hit it off like immediately, and we started the meeting like we both were like seeing people, and then by like the end of the half-hour meeting that lasts like 2.5 hours, we weren't seeing anybody else. And so he signed me up for personal training he wanted to sign me up with this girl Lindsay, and I was like, well, why
Lindsay?
Who's Lindsay? Like,
what up, Herve?
And so he's like, all right, sign up and I'll give you like 6 or 8 free sessions with me. So then I signed up and I did that. And fortunately, he liked me back, because after that, I just hung out at the gym constantly, just like waiting for some time with him in between his assessments with other people. So it would have been stalking if he didn't like me back, but It worked out.
So
there we go, sales, right back to sales.
I was literally like, always this famous saying in sales, ABC, always be closing. I mean, you were just a closer over here.
He was making it happen. So I joined the fitness thing, like just like the fitness lifestyle from there. Mm-hmm. And after that, we were dating, and I was kind of married to fitness through Herve. Like it wasn't really like my own thing that I was owning at the time. And over the course of the years, like I kind of dipped in and out of it a couple of times, and that allows me to really connect with our members who have been in and out of fitness and they feel crappy that they, are trying again.
On that note, how important from your experience, Nina, because you talked about like, clients being able to really relate to you, how important do you think from your specific role is that relatability and empathy into the success you've created?
I feel like it's everything. Like I feel like my lack of experience is like the best thing that I can bring to the table, because I feel like the people that come in, like I can completely relate to being like in their shoes. And so as long as I just continue to show them like I'm not an expert at all of this, like I show up to the boot camps just like they do, just like with my jeans, I'm like, all right, or my sneakers, I'm like, all right, so just tell me what to do. Like I'm here, you don't need to ask, like just tell me what to do. And I love my lack of background.
It turns out to be your superpower.
Yes, yeah.
Well, we're going to dive into that because I wanted to go there in terms of like, the working relationship, the personal relationship, you're married, and a lot of, fitness businesses, like myself included. We just had dinner with my wife, Tatiana, and us 4 last night, which is awesome. Thank you guys so much.
Yeah, thank you.
And, I think it's very, a common thing to go in together. So I want to talk about those dynamics, but take us to the point where, how and why did you choose Fit Body? How did you find the opportunity at Fit Body Bootcamp, and how did it come to be?
I had been working on starting my own fitness studio. I'd gotten it up and running, and I'd built up my clientele base. But during that time, I was studying. I was always on YouTube or reading up on books and trying to learn about how I can grow my business. But I was following this really awesome guy. You might know him. His name is Bedros.
I've heard of him.
He had a lot. He was just sharing so much on YouTube. He had such a wealth of information that he was just throwing out at all personal trainers that wanted the information to grow their business. And every time I would apply what I learned, I'd see growth. And I'm like, holy cow, this is working. So, I can remember seeing ads about Fit Body Bootcamp, and I even worked at a Fit Body Bootcamp. But during that transition, when I was opening up my fitness studio, had a good run for about a year, 2 years. But then I'm like, man, you know what? How can I do this a little bit better?
Before you go there, what type of training did you do at your own studio?
So we did mostly one-on-one private training and small group training.
Okay.
And what I found was that there was a lot of drop off after about 2 to 3 months. After people are paying, $700 to $800 a month for 3 months, usually people start to consider where to put their cash, and they cancel their memberships.
Yep.
And so for a number of months, I would, just be running around trying to figure out, okay, well, how do I fill the gap? We found Fit Body Boot Camp. The reason why I decided to open up a Fit Body Boot Camp was just because I knew that if we had 80 members and one dropped off, it wouldn't be such a large strain on our backs.
And previously you noticed that with small group and one-on-one, it was a large strain.
Oh, it is.
Yeah,
Huge.
yeah.
It just wasn't a good business model for us. And we knew that we needed to switch over to the franchise model.
And when you say for us, was Nina involved this time? Or were you working by yourself or a different partner?
Well, when I say us, Nina's always been involved.
But back then, not really very much. I was
Yeah.
pretty focused on we had just had our first kid. And so I was now a stay-at-home mom, just we were in separate worlds. And you really were doing pretty much everything yourself. Every once in a while, he would reach a complete spastic point, and I'd come in and do some help. But then as soon as things calm down, I'd be like, okay, you go do that again. And so at a certain point, there was enough of that, I'm coming in and then I'm getting out and then coming in and out, where we kind of caught on to the pattern. It's great when I come and join, and it's great for all of us. And then as soon as I leave, it all starts to crumble again and chaos happens. So finally we caught on, and it wasn't just to avoid chaos, but it was a very just kind of unfair and not really the long-term solution. Stop putting a Band-Aid on it. Either come in and really be a part of this. This is what you kind of told me. Either come in and really be a part of it, or don't, because we need to figure out a different way to do this.
A long-term solution, because you're here, it works, but then you go away, and at the end of the day, when you average that out, it doesn't work. So it's either let's go, I want you here, but if not, then I need to figure out a long-term solution.
Yeah, I did love doing it, and so at some point we kind of figured out what types of sacrifices we would make, and it doesn't even feel right to call them sacrifices, but what kind of changes we were going to commit to do it this way. And similar to a fitness journey, there's been those sputters, but it's been really good for us. It's been great for our marriage and our family, on so many levels, and for the business. It's been very good.
Well, let's go there. So at this point, you realize you have this, kind of come to Jesus, moment. Herve's all right, Nina, I want you in, and you're okay, let's go. Well, then what was the next step to get your doors open? Because
well, at that point we were already open. We had already been open for at least a year. Maybe 6 months.
And at this point, just to walk the audience through, you met in Chicago, this, that, and the other, but then you decided to open your boot camp after connecting with Dustin, listening to feedback from and coaching from Bedros, having experience working with Fit Body. You decided to move back to your hometown in Massachusetts, launch your Fit Body location.
That's right.
And during the first year, that's kind of when you were kind of coming out. So then, a year into it, you have the conversation. Then what happened?
What happened then? Then things got really good. We had so much more focus. We were able to really start building momentum because we were working together and we lived together. It wasn't that we always talk about business at home, but it became really fun. It became a game for us. And so it's something that we really love to talk about, and sometimes even we're okay, we have to make sure we stop talking about this and talk about other things just to make sure we've got a life outside of Fit Body Boot Camp. But it became really fun, and the business skyrocketed really in our, I think it was second year or something like that. Our business grew by 3.5 times. It went awesome. And so that was really great affirmation for us that this is something that's working, and we were able to be helping so many people, and our team was growing, and so momentum really started to pick up.
And what year did you open the location?
We opened it up in 2017.
So about 2018, 2019, it was things started really picking up.
Yep.
So let's talk about that, in terms of your working relationship, because again, it's very common that people are interested in getting the franchise to have that spouse support. Sometimes it's amazing, sometimes it's not amazing. So can you talk a little bit about that dynamic, and also too, what specifically roles you do, in strength and weaknesses?
Sure.
So Herve, why don't we go first, and then I'll ping off Nina.
So I would say that I'm more of a visionary. I have the ideas. I can see into the future. Nina would be the technician.
Okay. From technology perspective, or
from a technology perspective, she's just good at pretty much everything. I mean, she's also a visionary.
That's what you need in a partner. The reason it works is because Nina is just good at everything. You need a Nina friend.
No, but I've always been the person to come up with the ideas. You know, I love leading the team with my vision, but when it comes to the day-to-day, I am starting to phase out. We aren't really talking about...
I would say you are phased out of the day-to-day. Well, yeah, I guess just about. Yeah.
Starting to phase out. And that's great because it gives me a little bit more time to work on the things that actually matter in the business.
Okay.
So now
for the longevity of the business, because the day-to-day is extremely important.
It is.
Yeah.
So give me a few examples of that, and that way we can illustrate to what those actions are and then what Nina does specifically.
Perfect. So previous, I had been doing all the sales. It's just me. You know, I'm on the phone, grinding it out, setting up trials, you know, closing strategy sessions, doing it all. Now, with the time that I have on my hand, I can now create a system and structure to onboard another salesperson to do my job. As we bring in more people, we can scale the business, and I can focus on other things that can help impact the business and other people.
So like high level, you're looking like big picture. What are the chess pieces that need to happen? Who do I need to hire in? Bring them from a sales training perspective to get to fill that role or that role.
Right.
That's
now,
where your head's
if I
at.
have a sales team, now I can further my impact and go do more, talks at schools.
Totally. Nina, on your side then, like how does that balance? And like, okay, if Herve is going to be the visionary and kind of looking at where the business is going, like what are your roles and how do you work together?
I mean, we've got an awesome team. We have a great team, and they really are the ones handling the day-to-day. Like if Herve and I fall off the map for a whole day, the world still turns. If we fall off the map for a week, our business still turns, which is wonderful. So what's been really cool to see is even though I started with the day-to-day of like all the office type of administrative duties, like communications and just member services and things like that.
Yeah.
As our team has gotten stronger, Herve's been able to like go up and up and up to look even more aerial view at things, which has actually brought me up to like a different level. And Herve's super gifted at just like understanding like spiritually, like where do we want to go? And by spiritually, I just mean like what's the end goal feel like? And then like sniff our way to that. And he's got a much finer nose than I do, but we bounce off of each other because as he's dropping visions constantly, so no matter how crazy his vision is, this is what needs to be considered.
Yeah, execute that on a daily basis.
Another thing I'd note about marriage and business, it's really important that you're intentional about making the time for your spouse. You're in a relationship, which is important, right? Your marriage is extremely important. And if your marriage dwindles, what we found is that your business dwindles.
Business dwindles, yeah. So how do you guard against that? And that's the big $1 million question, right? So like we're listening to our audience who's like, okay, maybe I have a spouse interested in that. It's working for you.
Yeah.
You clearly have like different skill sets which work hand in hand, but you can also come together. But what would your recommendation be? Like what to look out for and really how to make it work so that way your relationship's intact, but you're also getting things done from business perspective.
What to look out for, I'd say, is just grinding it out every day, day in, day out, and not focusing on your marriage. What we do to kind of combat that is we prioritize a weekly date night,
Nice.
which I think everyone should do.
Saturday night.
And we haven't always
Get
done
out your
it.
heels.
We
We're
haven't
not.
always done
Yeah.
it. And we've seen the big difference in being consistent with it and not. And when we are consistent, business is doing well. We're on, we're working cohesively, we're vibing, we're in sync.
It's not that challenges aren't there, but it's like if the challenges come, it's like, all right, well, we still got this. Like, we got a great team, so it's not a big deal.
It's kind of like running a weekly meeting for your business
Yep.
because you need that in a business perspective.
Yep.
It'd be insanity for you not to meet with the team at least once a week, right?
Yep.
So why wouldn't it be the same for your marriage?
Yeah, and what's been amazing is like I think the one time we've missed in like maybe at like even a year or more was the day that we moved into our house. It was a Saturday, and we were so wiped. We're like, do we go on our date? Because it was like we finished at like 10 at night. So we're like, do we just go like grab a drink somewhere and then like have our date? And we decided not to do it. And by like the following Tuesday, we were like, that can never happen again. Like we felt it. Like almost instantly. It's super important. And you need to allow each other to be better at something than the other one, because for a while we had been working together. We'd been a part of masterminds for a while, and we could tell that we were like getting frustrated, that we just kind of felt like we were like up against some kind of wall and we couldn't quite figure out what it was. And then finally we kind of, through talking, we like to go on dates that require a lot of driving, because it's a really good conversation for getting things started for the date.
Really?
Yeah, and so this was a conversation we had at night, like in a drive. I told him, I was like, I feel like afraid to be better at you than something. So I felt like I was like holding myself back from excelling because I didn't want to be outshining him. And as soon as I said it, it was perfect it was great that I said it, because like, that's crazy. Like, I want you to do so great, and et cetera, et cetera. And it doesn't matter what it is, but from that conversation, we like were able to realize and appreciate, like, if you're better at something, like, go be better at it. Like, be better at it for the team. And if I'm better at something, like, go after it. And don't be afraid to protect each other's egos and all that, because that's really just manipulation. And when you put it that way, it's like, that obviously doesn't sound good. So being willing to be better at something. And then on the flip side, like, just accept your weaknesses and don't be afraid if the other person is better. So I guess it's kind of the same thing, but that was a really big one for us, I feel.
All right, so that's incredible advice, high level, and I definitely want to go there, because again, there's a lot of audience that are in that same situation, contemplating. So that's incredible. I want to take the conversation. You talked about your team. Like, what does it look like from your Fit Body Bootcamp location? You said you have some coaches, a facility leader potentially, and admins. Like, what is the makeup of your team? Because you talked about, you're sitting here in California with me. You came to LA the last few days. You're here for a week, so your business is able to run. What's the makeup of your team look like?
So we've got a facility coordinator, an admin, and 3 coaches currently. And they're incredible. They have such a passion for helping our members, and they want to impact the members. And that's really how we hire. We hire on our core values. And one of the things that we weren't doing in the past was just that. Quickly change that, and because of it, we have an awesome team.
How about your leadership development? Because it's interesting, especially maybe you can walk us down, because when you first start your business, like, it's all about the clients, right? Especially if it's just you two.
Yep.
And then what happens, you got to bring on 3 coaches and a facility coordinator, and then an admin, and then certainly your attention still has to, be on the client experience, but then it changes a little bit to be able to focus on your team. So can you talk a little bit about that, and also the leadership lessons you've learned?
It's so fun, because like you said, when you start out, well, at least when we started out, and I know a lot of our friends that own Fit Body Boot Camps that have become friends through things like Mastermind and things like that, most of us start out as like the solo players. And so you don't need to focus too much on leadership, because you've already been leading yourself. Whether you're good at it or not, like, that's just what you've been doing, and it's really just you and the members. And I think that it's really valuable, because just like a CEO who like works themselves up in the ranks, it's like you can appreciate, I'm asking you to show up at 4 a.m., but I did it for 3 years.
I've done that.
Right. I understand that it's not, necessarily easy, or I understand what's involved. So there's a lot of value in doing that. It doesn't mean you have to do it, but there is a lot of value there if that's like where you find yourself. What I love about leadership is that now they are the buffer between us and our members in a very large way. It's not that we don't interact with our members at all, because that's not the case. Herve still loves to coach a few sessions a week, and I work out there 6 days a week. So we see them and we know them, but as far as the professional relationship goes, our team is the buffer, which allows for us to be steering the ship and looking, allows you to be up in that, thing in the ship that people look out at.
The ship in the clouds, and that's where
Herve's
up
in the clouds. So with our team, not only have we made it this way, but we communicate with them to let them know, like, you are our number 1 priority, and our members are your number 1 priority.
Yes.
So what we have found is it's kind of like we understand each other as humans, and that allows us to really pass through them like a puppet master into the clientele. Exactly.
Yeah. So talk to me a little bit about like the team buy-in. Your team's bought in, right? Like your coaches are there. They're bought into you first and foremost, but what are some of the strategies? Like how have you been able to get that buy-in? Like core values is one, but events, training, like what do you pour into them? Why are they really, behind you?
First off, I think it's the time that we spend with them. We really take the time, weekly meetings, sometimes daily meetings with some of the people that we have on our team, but it's just taking the time to listen to our employees, to our staff, our team, hear them out when they're struggling, be there for them when they're struggling, provide tools to help them through their struggles.
Well, if I'm going to strip it down, actually you took the words out of my mouth, and like 30,000 foot view for our audience as well, not knowing Herve and Nina that intimately, but it's just you care. You guys are great people and you care. And at the end of the day, I mean, you have business systems and expectations and operations, et cetera, but because you guys care, like your team cares about your members, and you said it really, like your job is to focus on your team now, and your team's job is to focus on your clients.
You're teaching your team how to care for clients by modeling that relationship. So it's exactly that. Like we care for our team, and to the level that we can care for our team is the level that we do witness our team do amazing things for our members that no one asks them to do. They don't have to do it. They think of doing it, and they feel compelled to do it.
All right, well, I have a few other places I want to take this interview, but if I'm going to unpack this, right? We talked about your success, the journey, how you got there, working relationships, like so much gold here. If I were to say, okay, after your 5 years of success, hundreds of members, looking to scale to other locations, what has been, and work with me on your vulnerability as well, what's been one of the biggest challenges from a business perspective? Because that's really important because the audience wants to know. And then also, what's probably been one of the highlights?
One of the biggest challenges for me, and I've done such a great job getting to this point that I'm at right now, is accepting the fact that I don't need to be I don't need to be the star.
That's hard though, because of human nature, myself included. You have a little ego when you let things go. It hurts.
Absolutely.
But actually, that's where the most growth comes.
And it can be scary.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's scary. It's I don't know. There's a lot of things that come into play when you start to think of losing the spotlight, but not trying to do everything. I used to always want to be involved in everything, and I thought that a business owner needed to do all things. But now I'm realizing that all of those things I'm not good at.
Yeah, all the things need to be done, but not by you.
Right.
Nor are you like in your pay grade, like you're capable, right?
Exactly.
Like there's things that you excel on, and then there's things that are not, just human nature, myself included, and you need to get people to show up your weaknesses, execute those things where you can focus on your strengths.
Which I never would have known had I have never started a business. And because of this, I've learned it.
Take the step.
I've taken the steps, I've failed, and now I've come to this reality.
Well, it's a good reality and good knowledge to understand, to be able to navigate the course ahead. On the flip side, what's the biggest highlight? And then I'll flip it over to Nina.
The biggest highlight in business would definitely be just seeing people's lives being changed. But not just by us, by the people that we lead.
So for me, I think one of the biggest challenges was in I think 2019, right after we had scaled to that massive level, we brought on an administrator who had HR experience. Unfortunately, at the time we didn't realize it, nor did we realize once we did realize how negatively this would have affected ourselves, is there was so much fear in this individual that it trumped our confidence, at least for myself.
On your team?
Our team was very small at the time. I think it might have just been the three of us plus our coaches.
Okay.
So I allowed her fear and nerves to completely penetrate me, and then it made me, it can be very common that when you get scared or when you feel a lot of pressure, to contract. And so that's what I allowed to happen to myself instead of opening up, which is exactly one of our coaches, Coach Jennifer, she said that to me in a recent workout, and I just thought, she was talking physically, but I just think it's a great life example that when you're under pressure, your natural instinct is to contract, but what you actually want to do in that moment is open up. So had I had the wisdom then that now we've learned through trial and error, I wouldn't have gotten scared and gotten small. I would have made more noise and pushed out more and reached out for advice and touched out to people versus going and hiding. So that's been a really valuable lesson and one of the biggest challenges that we've been through. But challenges are really, just lessons, and that was one of the biggest ones.
Totally.
Yeah.
That's gold. How about the highlight, if I look back in the last 5 years?
Yeah, well, I think that if you can't tell, like becoming like appreciative and just starting to really unpack and open up what it can mean to be a great leader is just the highlight, because we have a lot of, again, being part of a franchise, we've got a lot of great people to look up to and to see the level of leadership that's available and possible, and then being able to use what we've learned and to be practicing it out and starting our own, leadership journey. That's been amazing. And like you said, it goes right into what you were saying about changing lives, but without even being the ones that technically did the work. We did the work,
right,
but we weren't the ones actually hand delivering and executing, and that's just so amazing. Like, that's the highlight for me, is just as soon as you think you got it figured out, suddenly the horizon just like gets so much bigger, and it can be overwhelming, but if you're in the right mindset, which I think is another real benefit of working with somebody as close as, your spouse, you keep each other in check, not just at work, at home, in the bathroom, in the bedroom, the kitchen, like wherever you are, it's like, hey, you seem funky, what's up?
What's going on?
You can, you get just pulled right back to where you need to be so much faster. And that's definitely one of the most amazing things. I'm sure you and Tatiana see it too.
Totally.
You keep each other in line in the best way.
Totally.
Yeah.
Well, she keeps me in line because that's what's needed, actually.
I'm sure you do this too, though. I'm sure you do. Just like Herve. Herve's inspired me in so many ways.
Totally.
And one of my biggest struggles was being afraid of failure. And by the time I met Herve, that's so done to him. Being afraid of failure, explain that to me.
He's like, let's
and
go.
I'm like, how can that be so confusing? And so then it causes me to try to explain myself. And as you talk that stuff out, it kind of over the years disappears and disappears. And so I'm sure you're a bigger positive influence on Tatiana than you think.
Well, thank you. I like the help.
Yes, I'm sure you are.
All right, so friends, you've been gracious with your time. One more big kind of topic I want to hit before we transition to lightning round. It's something you said about having access to franchise and leadership.
Yeah.
What would you say? I mean, you've been franchise partners with FitBody for the last handful of years, even before that, getting exposure. What would you say has been one of the biggest value adds of the franchise? And also knowing that you were just on stage at World Conference last year in Arizona, nominated for Mastermind Nominees of the Year. You guys have just fired all cylinders. So to acknowledge and give you credit for that. But what would you say from a value perspective is the biggest source of value within our system?
Mastermind is ahead of the game. We are rubbing shoulders with other really successful owners in the business. It's really allowing us to move further along a lot quicker than we would if we were just doing it on our own. And I'm super thankful for all the tools and resources that you guys have provided for us, because without them, there's a lot that we wouldn't have known. When
we first joined the franchise, because we had at that point started quite a few businesses on our own, and they stayed very low impact, low impact, low revenue.
In the fitness realm,
fitness, art, both things, and they'd stayed very low impact though. And I remember when we signed up and officially became FitBody Bootcamp franchisees, just feeling a totally different level of confidence, totally different level. And so I think the very first thing we found value in was just that borrowed confidence, because HQ already knew it worked. They were guiding us along, but it was just that borrowed confidence, very much like when you work with somebody who's come in, they failed at fitness so many times, they've maybe never even come close to succeeding whatsoever, but they're borrowing your confidence. That's why they are willing to sign up and go forward, because they trust you. And so that level of confidence was something that really gave us a lot of fuel to move forward like we hadn't before, to move forward without fear. So that was huge. And then moving into Mastermind, it was able to more so continue, just like you give your new members a lot of attention when they first come on, and then you're checking in with them regularly. But with Mastermind, it's different, because you're meeting over and over again with a very similar group of people. So the vulnerability goes up, the shared experience goes, like you understand you're sharing experiences, but when the vulnerability goes up, people are much more willing to share. And so you're far more able to understand that you're not the only one suffering, and you hear it constantly. They say they're having a hard time with nutrition. They've got somebody else who has too, and then they have somebody else who did, but now they figured something out, and then they all get to, the person who figured it out gets to feel like they've contributed, which was really the biggest reason for feeling honored to have that nomination, was the sense of feeling like we've really contributed.
You did, huge. From FitPro Tracker, and I'm going to sing you both praises, Nina specifically, but contributing, that's not necessarily a mastermind thing, but just the value that the franchise is given, but also too that you provide as well.
Yes, it gives you a place to contribute.
Totally.
And to contribute in a way that forces you to also think about working on the business and not in the business too. So it's really a cool opportunity for so many ways. It's hard to kind of sum it up briefly.
Well, I think you did a great job.
Well, thank you.
And a lot of gold here, and hats off. It's been a pleasure, honor, and you guys are absolutely incredible. Love it.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Well, absolutely. Well, now I want to transition to the lightning round, and my first question is not normally my lightning round, but in preparing for our interview, I did want to hit on your initial question, which would be, what are the 4 common threads that you see in most successful people within our brand and business owners?
And not even brand and business owners. This is something.
In life in general.
This is in life in general. This is members with weight loss. This is parents with great family. This is just.
Goes across the board.
Exactly.
So what are those 4 common things?
I think the number one thing that we see in the most successful people are, number one, they show up with positivity. They show up with a can-do attitude.
Not can do easily.
Not
Just
can-do
can
easily.
do.
Can-do. They know it's a challenge. They know that they're up for a challenge. They're up for the challenge. They know that it's going to be a challenge, but they're open for it,
Which
right?
feeds right.
Go ahead.
Which feeds right into the next, which is humility.
Right.
Because I don't think you can really go into something positively if you feel like you got to do it all yourself.
And you certainly can't lead people if you have an ego issue and you're not humble. No one wants to work for someone who's not humble.
And you really won't learn if you think you already know everything. You're a rock. You're just gonna be what you are, and that's it. And then, I think it was. Oh God, I think it was Einstein that said some people, most people die at 25 and they get buried when they're 75. It's that's what you're up against if you can't be humble and you can't be willing to admit that you can be better, and that includes people on your team teaching you stuff, people that
it works both ways.
100%, and in every relationship, every single one. I think we're all better off if we know that no matter who we're talking to, we can learn from and we can teach. Because I think sometimes we try to overcompensate and say, I'm just here to learn. But then that's some other twisted form of lack of humility in a way. Because it's no, you also need to 100%.
Yeah.
It's a two-way street always.
So positivity, being humility. Number 3.
Identity. I think identity is huge. We talk about identity all the time, and identity is what you know to be true about yourself, right? Your past self. What's the story that you know of yourself? And I think we have to really be focused on identity, because if we're not in alignment with the person that we want to become, we're
miserable.
We're miserable.
Totally.
We're anxious. We're depressed, and that's not a place we want to be. We want to make sure that we're showing up each and every day, following through on the promises that we make to ourselves. If we say we're going to work out 3 days a week, then show up and work out 3 days a week. Amen. And understand, if you don't show up and work out 3 days a week and you show up 2 days, then you're just chipping away at your identity and your self-image and your self-esteem.
But the thing with identity too is that everybody has identity, whether you're working on it or not, whether it's serving you or not. You have it, but the thing is, you have to exercise it. You have to nurture it. You need to be working on it, and that's the common denominator. You have to be working on it, and you need to stay aware that it's your responsibility.
Constantly.
You're not going to have. What was the Mary J. Blige line this morning? It was you're only going to whatever life you have is the life that you've made for yourself right now, and I mean your identity is foundational to that. And then the final is determination.
I would say determination is in line with dedication. I think you have to be
dedication.
dedicated.
Yes, sorry.
You have to be determination and dedication are kind of similar,
It's
but
very similar, yeah.
you gotta be dedicated. You've got to wake up each and every day with that idea that it doesn't matter how I feel today. That's not what matters. What matters is that I show up and I do the thing that I say I'm going to do. And if I don't, I know how I'm going to feel. And
So, I mean, whatever it takes mentality. It doesn't matter what you feel in the moment. It's like, hey, if we're going to do this, it's like, whatever it takes, that's what I'm willing to do.
And just to
That's
pull it back
dedication.
too, it's like when you have that vision of where you want to go, right? Like you're up in that ship and you're looking and you know where you want to go. You're setting up like the type of identity that you need to get there. Like that's what you're figuring out. And like you just said, if you're not in line with the identity that you've determined for yourself, you feel miserable. And so you have to stay dedicated. That's why if you wander away from it, you feel like crap. And that's why dedication is so important. And it also saves you a lot of energy. And I would argue even like produces energy to be dedicated, because if you say you want to get fit, because we're on Fitness Franchise Podcast, if you say you want to get fit, but you're not doing what it takes, even though in your mind you've already decided, here's what it takes, and now you're deciding, I'm not going to do it, or you waste time debating every day, am I going to work out? Am I not going to work out? You're wasting your energy versus you don't waste any energy. You just know you're going to do it. Don't ask yourself if you want to do it, because you don't want to know the answer. Just put the shoes on, get out the door and get there. Do the work, expend the energy, and then how much greater you're going to feel that you did what you already determined you were going to do. You multiply your energy. And so it's a big one.
Gold right there, friends. Holy smokes.
Yeah, I think a lot of times people are just looking for what tastes good, what feels good. And the reality is it's not about that. It's not about what feels good. It's about just showing up and doing the work. Don't look for it to feel good. Do the hard.
It will feel good. But don't worry about that. That part comes.
But it comes through the hard work and challenging yourself.
Love that framework. So positivity, identity, humility, dedication.
You got it.
Boom. Those four, my friends. All right, my last question, and want to leave you with this, and this is for our audience who are interested in fitness, in business, potentially opening a business, becoming an entrepreneur, or just life in general. What would be a parting words of wisdom, and I'll go with you, Herve, first, that will help them on their journey?
You don't have to have it all right before you get started.
That's perfect.
You don't have to have all the answers. And I've seen it hold people back so often, but only if they were to just step out into that challenge and take that leap, take that risk, would they realize that it's really not that bad after all.
Yeah.
It's just scary to start.
It is scary to start, and it's scary when you don't know the third step. But it really is about just take the next step, because what things look like right now, it's not even what it's going to look like in the second step anyways. Like change is the constant. So you take this step based on everything you know, and once you're standing there, you look at everything again around you and you take the next step, because it's always changing. So what you decide to do in 10 years in this moment is not going to probably be as good of an idea as it sounds like right now.
Beautiful. Nina, what do you got?
I'm stealing from him. Yes, I'm piggybacking.
Love it.
All the way to the car.
All the way to the car. Well, friends, you guys are awesome. Before we shoot, I'm going to acknowledge you for a second, but where can our audience connect with you at, whether it be Facebook, Instagram, your website, etc.?
Well, our studio is WB Fit Body, and then our personals are our first and last names, nice and simple. And then we're launching a podcast soon, and that is Second Wheel Podcast, also on Instagram.
So tell us about that real quick, actually.
So the podcast is very inspired by all the amazing podcasts that we watch right now, and what we want to focus on is giving people the tools, resources, stories, including the challenges and failures, and you're not alone, to allow people really the permission and courage to reach out for their dream goals, not just their goals of, I gotta get dinner ready, or I wanna whatever other normal, mundane, safe goals, but the ones that you might even be afraid to admit to yourself.
Well, you guys are awesome. This has been a pleasure. I was definitely excited for this for a long period of time. And I just want to acknowledge you, like both of you. You guys light my cup. You're a huge value to our brand.
Thank you.
But more than anything, you're just good friends. You're
Thanks.
incredible people, and you just care. And really, that's to me the legacy that you guys you live in my mind, and certainly to your team, to your clients, and to your community. So continue to fight. I love being on this journey together, inspiring fitness and changing lives.
you.
And thank you so much
We're
for
excited
being
to
on
be
the
on
show.
the journey with you, buddy.
Yeah, no
Seriously.
kidding.
Well, friends at home, I know you guys got a ton of value as always, and just love their authenticity, their vulnerability, and really lifting up the hood of the marriage, of the family, the kids, the business, and assuming that you got value, which I know you did. If you'd be so kind to give us a like and subscribe on YouTube and write us a 5-star review on iTunes. That way we can keep producing this content for you for free. So that's all for today. We'll see you the next episode. And again, Herve and Nina, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, guys.